The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for attending our webinar today. My name is Natalie Musa, and I'm going to go over a few housekeeping items. The webinar itself will take no longer than 30 minutes, with 10 minutes at the end to answer any questions that you may have. If you have a question during the presentation, please type it in the questions box, and we will be sure to answer them during the Q&A period at the end. Now I'm going to introduce Doug Vinson. He's the VP of Strategy and Marketing here at Pactera to do a little overview of our company.
Thanks, Natalie. This is Doug Vinson. I'm Vice President of Strategy and Marketing for North America for Pactera. Thank you very much for attending the webinar. We're very excited to have this opportunity to talk to you about the CRM and some of the next generation tools that are coming out. And we have a great speaker in Dmitri Novomeiski, who will be joining in just a second. I just first want to give you a little bit of an idea of who Pactera is so you know who's giving this presentation. Pactera is probably one of the largest companies that you have never heard of. And there's a reason for that. We had a recent merger about 3 months ago, and the resulting company took a new name, Pactera. But just to give you a little idea of our profile, we're actually 24,000 employees based in 35 cities around the world with our headquarters in Beijing, China. We're actually the largest IT services company based in China. But we have offices, again, around the world in 6 different continents. We're on the NASDAQ. Our symbol is PACT. You can look us up and see a nice profile of us. Our business is mainly around IT services, onshore as well as offshore, mainly for the Fortune 500, but we certainly have clients that are more in the middle market as well. Predominantly financial services, high-tech, retail, and manufacturing. Those are probably our big verticals. Our focus really is on innovative technologies. Those are around big data, analytics, mobility, cloud, and CRM, of which we're going to be talking about today. So the next slide. You can see exactly where we're based, and if you're coming and watching this from the U.S., we are on both coasts, East Coast and West. Significant presence along the West Coast because many of our clients are the high-tech companies, and we serve them by developing software for some of the companies that are the ones that we buy software from in the industry every day. That software is built and tested by companies such as ours, and that's a lot of what we provide our clients. But today we're going to be talking more around package solutions and CRM, and that certainly is an area of expertise as well. Next slide. So I'm going to turn it over to Dmitri Novomeiski, who is the head of our CRM solutions practice within Pactera. Dmitri has been with us several years and has been in the CRM industry as well for about 14 years. So, Dmitri?
Thank you, Doug. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for attending our webcast today. The topic that we're going to cover today is around migration from your legacy CRM applications to the next generation CRM. This is the topic a lot of organizations are pondering these days. Some of them have started on this process, and some of them considering engaging in that. In 2012, according to Gartner, CEOs saw customer relationship management as the #1 technology-enabled investment. And there is a reason behind that. There is a lot of drivers in the organization and in the marketplace that escalate importance of customer relationship management, interactions with your customers and external constituents of organizations to the top levels of organization. Transition to next generation CRM can really be a theme of a week-long workshop, but we're going to have to focus fairly high-level, fairly high-level items, and we can have further discussions during Q&A and also follow up separately with you after the webcast. As it relates to myself, for the last 14 years, I've seen a number of CRM migrations attempted and completed across multiple platforms. There has been a common pattern that has been arising around the drivers of it within the organizations, as well as what initiatives, what strategies were most successful. And this is going to be the focus of today's webcast. I'd like to have it more or less dynamic. You can ask questions throughout the webinar, and we'll try to answer as we go. And we'll also try to have a few Q&A session after the webcast. And if we don't get to your questions, we'll follow up with you after the event. So there is a common enterprise CRM landscape in the organizations currently. And it's driven with the fact that 5, 10, 15 years ago, a lot of organizations made a huge investment into customer relationship management platforms and technologies. And those technologies are very deeply rooted within the organization's fabric. However, the market has been changing. The marketplace has been changing. It's really becoming highly interactive environment for the organizations. And organizations are asking themselves, can I adapt with the environment? Can I adapt my culture? Can I adapt my process? Can I adapt my technologies with the environment? And there are certain challenges that are very common to organizations who have not really started yet on this process. The first one is very high cost of maintenance of legacy applications. And we'll take Siebel as an example. An average Siebel upgrade costs about $1 million and lasts about 1 year. Can you imagine the cycle that it takes for the organization to go through that, and the time that it would take away from your IT and business organizations from innovating or actually doing the business? The other element is long development cycles. Legacy CRM applications take very long time to market for new features and functions, and unfortunately, those components of CRM often fall behind and not really given priority. Recurring infrastructure challenges is another one. Really strong focuses on performance, application performance, data backup, recovery, and you can imagine even over the last 2 years how the performance requirements from applications have grown, even in our personal lives as it relates to computer applications. The speed of computers and applications that we expected 5 years ago are drastically different from what we expect from computers and applications right now. Another element, another challenge is application adoption effectiveness. It is quite limited with legacy CRMs. Because of long development cycles, users also rarely brought to the table for discussions with feedback, or they're often brought to the table to have conversations in the beginning, and in the end they see the result which might not often meet their demand. Mobility is another challenge with legacy CRM applications. The mobile options are often non-intuitive and not very flexible. And finally, the bottom line of it is really rigid and limited in innovation. A lot of legacy CRM providers are really trying to get on the bandwagon of innovation, but the innovation cycles for them are much longer and infrequent and also require complex upgrades. Another element that's very common in the CRM landscape in the large enterprises is the resistance of the organization to change. And it's driven by a few factors. First one is the large CRM investment that has been made today in the existing application. Companies have invested millions of dollars into complex CRM deployments, and the idea of abandoning such investments is quite disheartening to many, even though often these deployments and these investments fail to deliver proper return on investment that has been initially expected. So there is a desire to squeeze more out of existing environment rather than trying to move and evolve with the market, evolve with technology. Another element is the reactive nature of many businesses. A lot of businesses tend to change when they can't handle it anymore, when it hurts so much that there is no other choice than to adapt. And finally, risk of taking another large-scale initiative is overwhelming. When organizations executives think about And another large-scale initiative that would have to take and consider processes and technology changes, infrastructure changes, and resource changes. It can be quite overwhelming and really comes to question, how do I prioritize this or any other activities within my organization? However, the demand is really clear. The demand that's driven within the organizations is around customer centricity. Customers are really becoming the focal point of the organization's activity. All of our activities and interactions are focused around customers, and it's also real-time interactivity with customers as well as within the user groups and within the user groups within the organization or with the partners and other constituents of the organization. User experience is also taking a front stage. Users becoming very used to the web technologies that are available currently. Think of Amazon or Facebook or other solutions that you find very easy to use, and users demand such ease of flexibility and user interface in the enterprise applications. Mobility and flexibility is another demand. Everybody is using iPads. I just seen the recent stat from Gartner that by 2014, 30% of the workforce will be equipped with iPads and tablets in organizations. It really takes a forefront of cross-platform, cross-device connectivity. To finalize it all, transformation is really imperative for organizations to stay competitive. And folks are seeing the demand and have to overcome the resistance within the organizations to move on. Here's another slide to kind of illustrate why does it make sense to replace a legacy CRM infrastructure to legacy CRM solution. When you look at on-premise IT, you see that when you manage your entire IT stack internally, when you focus on infrastructure, you really spend 80% of your effort just keeping the lights on for your technology, and very little resources are left to differentiate your company, to determine what really makes your company unique and how to secure that competitive advantage. In comparison to next generation, modern generation CRM platforms that are based in cloud, you spend less time and money on infrastructure, and that really frees up your resources to differentiate yourself and focus on what makes your company unique, while the underlying infrastructure and technology really improves automatically. So the question comes up automatically, what do we do and where do we go? Probably all of you who are attending this webinar are familiar with the Gartner CRM Magic Quadrant, right? So I wanted to put it up there. There's a few options up in the marketplace that may be feasible options, and there is no one solution right for all. There's a lot of dependencies depending on your organizational technology stack in place and the direction that you're looking to go. But you will see who are the leaders in the marketplace, and you'll also understand what are the business demands for flexibility of applications, rapid innovation, and needs of IT for ease of maintenance and ease of release management and governance. For this webcast, we're going to focus more around Salesforce.com as the end solution, but a lot of rules that we're going to discuss, a lot of components to success, they're going to be agnostic of specific technology platform, and if you choose to go with another solution, you can apply them quite frequently to other alternatives as well. So we spoke a little bit before about the challenges of the legacy CRM applications within the organization, and I wanted to take a few dimensions and compare legacy application, legacy infrastructure with the modern next generation infrastructure such as Salesforce.com. So the dimensions that we've chosen are infrastructure, analytics, development, mobility, and governance. We could have gone on and add some more dimensions here, but these are the ones that we thought would be some key ones to compare. So infrastructure, we spoke a little bit about it. In infrastructure, you're facing manual, labor-intensive upgrades. It's a client-server application and has all the downsides comes with it, and there's infrastructure to maintain. With the next generation cloud CRM, the focus on business, the infrastructure is automatically improved and upgraded. For example, Salesforce.com does 3 releases per year that are innovative, and the organization itself is committed to technology innovation, bringing new technologies around collaboration, mobile, and beyond to the organizations as the technology evolves. Another advantage of the cloud platforms is really ease of scaling up or scaling down application that legacy CRMs do not afford. Another dimension is analytics. For legacy CRM applications, there is no real-time data. It requires a separate data warehouse, and analytics implementation can become quite expensive and complex, and then almost double your total cost of ownership of applications. In the new generation CRMs, users have control of analytics. They can customize and consume real-time analytics over the web, email, or mobile devices that really gives control to the users, control that they require. Development is another dimension that is quite different. Legacy CRM development is often found that it's waterfall friendly. There is fairly fragile development framework, and it's quite time consuming to implement and maintain logic that can break during the upgrades. On the cloud platforms, such as Salesforce, we have point-and-click interface, and it's also a rapid development framework, very agile-friendly, and provides a complete cloud development platform extensible with very robust APIs. There's also a very large application marketplace of plug-and-play solutions. So for a lot of organizations, you don't really have to go into heavy development and set up to pilot an application for your organization. Another dimension is mobility, and we spoke a little bit earlier before, where in legacy CRMs, wireless devices and enabling wireless devices is possible, challenging, and UIs are not very intuitive and have limited functionality. In comparison to modern-day CRMs, which have a web-based environment, have touch interfaces for iPads, and very robust mobile API and policy management. And finally, governance. What we see on legacy CRMs, especially in the complex deployments, the management of roles and permissions is so complex that it's often handled in Excel spreadsheets in comparison with the centralized security data permissions and control that you can have within the application in solutions like Salesforce.com. In the end, the cloud CRMs show that they can deliver faster time to market, lower total cost of ownership, and ROI. As you engage in your initiative, or as you're starting to consider your migration to a different environment, a different CRM platform, there's a few things to remember that are quite different. It's not really apples-to-apples comparison. The functions, processes, data schemas, they're different within the applications and need to be examined and analyzed properly. There is no better, worse, but they're just different. And so it's very often we see that our clients, when they try to engage in the process, there's really desire saying, we'll take this and we'll apply the same set of rules to another system. But due analysis is really required to make proper decisions around the architecture process. And API and governance limits. Cloud solutions, with the benefit of them, provide an innovation and not focus on infrastructure. There are certain API and governance limits you need to keep in mind of that you might not have had to think about with legacy CRM platforms. And there is a change of focus. The focus is on business value, not infrastructure, and really business process. Getting the business processes, we'll talk a little bit later in the key elements of success, is really essential. Interactive and rapid deployment. You do not have to wait a very long time to deploy a set of functionality or deploy a certain application to your users. Your deployment cycles can be as short as several weeks or a couple of months, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. And that's really the beauty of the cloud CRM platforms. Another element is user and business engagement. The solutions really, the technology really allows to bring closer and partner closer with the business users. And often, some organizations may even opt in to allow business users lead the process and have IT mentor and coach the process and facilitate the process along the way. Change management also becomes essential because you have such a rapid pace of innovation in the customer relationship management. Change management also becomes essential throughout your organization and how the cloud CRM is used and adopted within your organization. So now we're going to cover a few elements of a successful CRM migration. The first one is knowing your pain. And here we're going to talk about the importance of understanding the problem and how can you discover those problems in your organization. When we talk about embracing the change, we'll talk about the importance of change management and how critical it is to your initiative success. Focus on process. Very often processes overseen and organizations and IT groups tend to transfer existing processes into a new solution and fail to take advantage of the efficiencies that could be created by adjusting the process accordingly. Creating a plan. I know this sounds somewhat basic, but proper planning really provides its results. I'm originally from Russia, and we have a saying, measure 7 times, but cut only once, and that speaks really well for creating a right plan that can facilitate your overall success. Creating the right team. Creating the right team is very essential as well because what we have seen often, sometimes organizations tend to either understaff a project or overstaff a project. And when that happens, it really slows down the cycles of your process and your implementation, your migration. So generating and creating the right team is really important. Considering the data. Data is often underestimated in terms of importance. And however, it is really often the element, the component of a migration, CRM migration, that causes most overruns on time and budget. So that is a really essential part that we're going to talk about as well. And finally, my favorite is think big, start small. We often talk about the big picture and the vision of the future, but it's really important to take small bites at a time, the ones that we can digest and the ones that we can succeed with. Well, without further ado, we'll go a little bit deeper in those elements. And the first one is knowing your pain. Why is knowing your pain essential? Why is it so important? Before we proceed on any initiative, whether it's our business life or personal life, it's really important to take time to assess what is really going on. We can often be rushed to try to feel a problem, a perceived problem, with a solution, or we might be so eager to adapt to the new technology or wanting to have a new fun thing that we perceive as fun and exciting, thinking it will solve our problems by automatically applying it, such as let's take this new great technology and put it into our organization, and then it will solve our problems. It will help us to be more effective. Unfortunately, without deeper analysis, such initiatives often can fall short. So understanding your pains of your constituents is really important. What pains are your end users having? What pains the customers and partners are experiencing? What about your service and support organization? What about management? Surveys, interviews, focus groups, sitting down with your end users and your constituents can really become a great tool in assessing what exactly they're doing in their day-to-day activities, where are the biggest roadblocks for them, what are their pains, what are their frustrating experience, how could you make their life easier. And very often, if you just try to speak to people, they might not even tell you those specific elements that you could do by observing them in action. Next element, business and IT must come together in true partnership. And what I mean by true partnership is that it's not really we just engage the business from IT side, or we just engage IT from business side. It really needs to be a very tight marriage where you're working together closer to the common goal, because those are the two aspects of the organization that can provide you a holistic view of the situation, a holistic view of what is going on with your business operations as it relates to customer interactions and managing customer and partner interactions and information. Another element is a successful initiative engages all layers of the organization. It's not only we should speak to management or the leaders in the organization, but really going across all layers of organization, understanding the pains there from top executive level, understanding what is the strategy issues, where your organization is looking to move in terms of strategy, and how can CRM technology, CRM processes support that strategy, down to the call center operator, call center agent, and understanding what are their pains, what is their experience, what is seeing in their day-to-day life. Second component of success is embrace the change. Change is not comfortable. Very often, even the folks who think that they are great at change, they're highly adaptable to change, they find if the rug is pulled out from under them, they're not really comfortable, they lose their balance. Change is not comfortable in any facet of organization, and different people have different ways of dealing with the change. So it really is paramount to promote and embrace the change, and also help others to do the same thing. There's many different change management frameworks that could be applicable. One thing we're seeing at our customers when we bring up the importance of change management to them, very frequently we hear, well, change management, yeah, we know everything about it. We can do it. It's no problem. But as your project engages, somehow the importance of that and throughout the initiative really falls behind. So it needs to really be a consistent process, consistent engagement of managing the change, to manage the resistance within the organization, identifying and empowering sponsors and champions for change. And successful change management really defines success of your initiative. Element 3, focus on process. And I know this sounds quite basic maybe, but it is really unfortunate that we see so many of these items around our customer base or our prospect base that we speak to, that often folks trying to take one solution, one function, and port it to another application, from one application to another application, often there is a desire to just take it and make it fit the way it is right now. And one thing that is often admitted, that the processes that were developed 5, 10, 15 years ago are no longer the most effective method to complete certain tasks of operations. And it may be difficult for individuals or teams to adjust to that concept, but if you port your process and organization to this, you really miss out on 80% of potential impacts your migration, your initiative could have. So the focus is really important on simplifying and improving the process within the organization. How can you make users more effective? And really taking advantage of everything that technology can offer around workflow automation, real-time collaboration, interface improvement. It's somewhat anecdotal, but I have seen a number of developments where organizations, our company, have came in and there was some internal development been taken where the old interface from a legacy solution has been pretty much redeveloped in the same format on the new technology, on the new platform. And that really doesn't take advantage of what you can offer to your users from the efficiency perspective. Creating a plan. Creating a plan is very important because we often, when we're excited about the change, when we're excited about the transition, we often really rush into doing rather than spending proper time to analysis and understanding where we are within our organization, what is going on across organization outside of CRM initiatives, what different applications do we have in our organization, how do we prioritize them, are they a fit for migration to the new CRM platform, what is our existing process and technology, and what are the gaps between our existing process and to-be process, and how we're going to close those gaps. Another element is organizational taxonomies. When the data resides in many different locations, there's different terminology and nomenclature that is in place. Really getting those in sync and ensuring nomenclature and consistency of terminology is really important. Reporting strategy. What metrics are we trying to get from the system when the system comes out? Not really addressing your reporting strategy from the beginning can really limit you in terms of what you can deliver to your end users in the end. And defining it down the line might require re-architecture of your data model if you're not able to deliver what's necessary. I spoke a little bit about parallel initiatives. A lot of organizations currently engaging into master data management initiatives, big data, large integration initiatives around enterprise service applications and integration. So it's really important to understand the roadmap for those initiatives and how they're going to play with the CRM migration. How is it going to come together? Do you need to backfill certain elements of the new application and release them maybe 12, 16 months down the line? So getting those in sync is really important. And how those initiatives are going to affect your organization, your initiative around CRM migration and your roadmap is really important. Finally, support and ownership. It's really important to decide how you're going to support and maintain your application. Do you have the right resources to do that? Who is going to have ownership of it across all departments, across all the different divisions in the large organizations and different independent business units? This is where you need to also decide what is the implementation strategy you're going to take, whether, for example, if you take an example of Salesforce.com, are you going to go with a single instance or multi-instance approach? So a lot of decisions need to be made in advance to determine the appropriate plan. Next element is creating the right team. You really need people who can understand both systems. The legacy CRM application, we take Siebel as an example, is really deeply rooted within your organization. You have subject matter experts in your organization, and often large enterprises have companies that have implemented their solutions, have really deep understanding around the implementation, around the technology, around the processes. So you really need to have folks who understand both systems, both your future end state solution as well as your legacy existing solution in terms of process, data model, governance, limitations, system integration around all those parameters. Inviting business to join the team. We talked a little bit earlier about really partnering effectively with the business. Making business to be an integral part of your organization for the CRM migration initiative is really paramount. And this is where you're going to get a buy-in and support of implementing and initiating this change within your organization. The right team starts with the right leaders. That is highly critical to the organization's success around CRM migration, because there's a lot of change, there's a lot of dynamic evolution that will take place in your initiative. It is really important that your leaders are flexible, excited, and open-minded, because they are the ones that are going to drive the transformation within your organization. And finally, establishing CRM Center of Excellence. If this is a new topic for you around CRM COEs, this is not something you need to engage on from day one, but you really need to look forward in terms of ownership and developing the right skill sets and the right processes across various functions both business and IT in terms of supporting and evolving the application going forward as you move through your first phases of the CRM migration and beyond. Element number 6, consider the data. I mentioned before that data is #1 underestimated component in CRM migration. We often see that this is the largest cause of overruns due to different factors. But it's really important to understand what is your data mud going to look like, and what is your data strategy? What does your data strategy looks like before you start your migration? That's the ideal scenario, of course, but you need to know how you're going to address the issues around data consistency, data cleanliness, what approaches and what tools, techniques are you going to use to ensure that your data, as it moves from one CRM to another, as well as across other systems within your organization, is properly aligned and properly cleansed. Otherwise, as you know, garbage in, garbage out. You can do that through preliminary data analysis and sampling early on in the project, as well as applying some data cleansing and deduplication techniques. And very important is to do multiple dry runs to ensure that transformation conforms to various data patterns that are available in your organization. And it's also critical to have business validate the data from the beginning to end of the process. Consider the data model differences. We talked a little bit earlier that the data models between Salesforce.com and applications like Siebel are quite different in terms of relationship between various objects and entities and how the data is structured. So it's really important to consider how is the legacy data will fit in the new data model, into the new ecosystem, and what transformation will be required to take place. And also it's important reporting strategy. I mentioned before, if the reporting strategy is not really defined at the beginning of the project, all of your architectural decisions may have a chance to lack ability to deliver for the reporting metrics. And in the end, reporting and analytics, that's what drives success of your application. Are you able to get real-time data and information about your sales, operation, marketing, support operations at your fingertips? Think big, start small. And this component is really about not trying at one time. It's really around embracing the pilots and taking really small steps at a time. We often recommend just to do the first initial pilots out of the box, Salesforce.com functionality, if we talk about Salesforce, and really even have the business drive the initial pilots so they could have a full ownership and buy-in around it. What we see frequently is that over-customization can really delay projects and increase support overhead. Some IT organizations, when they see an application, they really rush in to do development in the application and start heavy customization as they understand the technical needs of legacy CRM applications. But what happens down the line is by the time the pilot is complete, you really have a heavy customized application, and the more customization you have in place, the harder it is. While the business might have been quite happy and effective with out-of-the-box customization. And as well, there's still architectural decisions yet to be made as you're trying to migrate a larger portfolio of CRM applications to the new platform. Phased approach is really important. And there's different ways to structure it. You can phase it out market by market or function by function. You may have completely siloed groups where you may choose to phase them in parallel, but taking those small functions, small components within the organization, trying to phase them out would also help you to collect early feedback. And the feedback loop is really, really important here. Establishing measures of success from the start. What does the success look like before we start the project, before we start engagement, and really working and assessing how we're progressing towards a success. Are we gaining efficiency and effectiveness of the users? Are we able to get the metrics and analytics that we need Are our customers happier using, or is our sales cycle shorter? Are we getting higher percentage of first call resolution rates in our call center? And being transparent around this success is also very important. I talked before that it's really a joint business and IT initiative. That's what's going to drive success. So being transparent, but not being just transparent with your peers within the organization, but also being transparent across all facets of your organization. That really gives you a buy-in and supports the change within your organization. And finally, really prioritizing together, sitting down with your teams and with the business and IT, and really prioritize the functions together as you adapt, throughout the project of migration, your legacy CRM to the new CRM application. Being very flexible is also a part of it. That's why we recommend starting small and taking small pieces at a time, as you can adjust and probably will adjust your approach, you'll adjust your phasing, you'll adjust your functions as you move along, as you move forward in your process. So now I just want to give you a sample migration timeline. And again, this is just a sample, and there's different ways to structure it and slice it, and based on your demands within your organization. Here is the phase one. I talked a little bit earlier about the importance of migration assessment, right? Spending the first few weeks to really understand the functional technical gap analysis. What is the reporting strategy? What is the critical reporting? What are functional cross-dependencies across your organization that your legacy CRM solution touches? Because that really will affect your overall architecture and planning. Again, the key piece is we don't really want to create architecture patterns. We don't want to create work for ourselves that would require for us to be pulled out or reworked or re-architected somewhere down the line, because it's going to be significantly harder to do that once the first sets of work are in. Another element is really in the phase one, really partnering closely with IT, with business and IT, really letting business lead the process as peers in this engagement. Another element that you do is in the assessment is break up your business analysts, your business analyst groups by function of business line, and really don't start any pilot configuration. And it's very hard to hold up to that. Don't start any pilot configuration or development until you really identify functional cross-dependencies. That will, once you have a whole picture around the organization, to really make standing more whole as you try to design your solution. And we talked a little bit about the pilot being out of the box. Try to stick with really minimal development as you can. The second phase would be focusing on high priority functions. We talked about developing a migration scorecard where you could assess your applications within your CRM portfolio, solutions portfolio, and score them on high priority, medium, and low priority, and a fit for the migration. This is where you could develop prototypes for those high priority functions, rapidly do development and deployment around migrating data, minimal integration required, and deploy those high priority functions to the new platform. This usually will take a few months after your assessment is completed. The next phase will be focused around medium to low priority applications, and as well as trying to further evolve applications that have been evolved in the phase two. And phase three is where we see more deeper integrations with back-end and front-end applications taking place as well. And finally, the final phase is more around ongoing support and management of applications, where really you can look further if you choose to consolidate application with Force.com platform, and really focus on innovation, really focus on differentiating your organization further in support of business needs and user feedback. So that's a general kind of overview. I try to be brief here in this webcast around the key elements that we see for the organization, for organization success and migration to new next generation platforms such as Salesforce.com. Pactera is eager to help you. We have a lot of methodology in place around developing business case assessment, developing center of excellence, as well as a number of templates such as data mapping, various architecture patterns for reporting, Siebel modules, scorecards, as well as tools such for schema analysis and data migration. I hope this was a webinar you found it useful, and now we're going to open to questions. Are there any questions?
Thanks, Dmitri. We have a few questions that have come through. I'll just kind of run through them quickly. The first question, what are the most challenging Siebel modules to be migrated to Salesforce.com?
Sure, thank you. So we try to not keep this webcast technical because it's really easy to get into the weeds. The challenge with Siebel is that there is no really concept of vanilla Siebel implementation. All of the modules are usually heavily customized. Generally, what we see is that marketing and opportunity modules can pose additional complexities. It really takes assessing process and function of existing state and a desired state to determine the proper approach for the migration. There are templates that exist for some of those functions that could be used, but also there are some app exchange solutions, for example, for Salesforce.com, that can be used to deliver required functionality.
Great, thanks. Another question that has come through, what does an optimal migration team look like?
Okay. So it will be somewhat a long answer here. One of the things that we're seeing consistently is that smaller teams tend to be more effective. We have seen frequently where large organizations tend to overstaff the teams and throw maybe teams of 20 people on an engagement. And what really happens is that your team is slowed down in their effectiveness and ability to deliver, and too much time becomes consumed with coordination across multiple teams, across multiple resources. As you structure the team, it's really important to get representation of business and have product owners from your organization have close relationship with the business organization and really are eager on a continuous basis to take back and solicit feedback from the organization. It's important to have subject matter experts. We talked about it, right? Both process, technology, and data-wise. On average, I think for each team, the optimal team size would be 5 to 9 people. And then you can have multiple work streams working in parallel. But it's important to have proper leadership and expertise in the teams. If we talk about the pilot team, as an example of the pilot team, how would you structure it? You would need a solution architect who would be a Salesforce.com expert, business analysts, and we talked about breaking them down by functions or by business lines. And those business analysts will help define process and business case scenarios. You would need a data architect, the one who understands existing data structure and migration planning, and also a couple of Salesforce.com administrator/developer resources, if I could say. Those are folks who are going to help to configure the system to meet the business cases and also support minor enhancements.
Great, thanks, Dmitri. We have one more question that has come through. What are the most common mistakes you have seen in organizations as they attempt to migrate their legacy applications to the Salesforce.com platform?
Okay. So I think one of the, and I touched on this a little bit earlier, one of probably the most common mistakes and the one that's hardest to dismantle is really a desire to go ahead and start customization of your application from day one. So what we've seen is customers, for example, go to App Exchange and see the App Exchange marketplace of solutions being a panacea for all of the problems, all of the needs that they can fit, and they start installing tens of different applications from App Exchange. And by the time you really start working on the pilot, there's already lots of applications installed, and it makes it really hard to navigate. And those solutions might not be the right fit also for the business problem unless you really understand holistically the view of the process and the functional needs within the organization around customer relationship management. And the other element is also around desire from IT to start development. And there's no problem with starting development in the sandboxes and development environments. There's really desire to go and start developing for the pilot and really doing heavy customization. You know, we've seen very interesting approaches that IT departments have taken to certain solutions where, without really understanding the data model and all of the use cases, they've chosen to pretty much recreate the existing functionality that's there out of the box. So those things I would probably recommend to watch out for, and just wait to make sure you really get a whole picture around the business needs and engage the experts of the solution of the for example, in the case of Salesforce.com, engage Salesforce.com experts have experience of porting applications between the two systems to lead that initiative.
Okay, that concludes our question and answer session. Thank you so much, Dmitri and Doug. We will be following up with you to give you Dmitri's contact information if you have any other additional questions that you would like to ask him or follow up with him. But that concludes our webinar today. Thank you so much and have a great day.